Hi, my name is Jeff Moshe, and in this video I'm going to explain how we might be able to survive through almost any crisis that we are dealing with right now or even in the future. Global warming, nuclear war, cancer, right-wing fascism, nearly anything. Now, I'm sure this sounds ridiculous and that there must be some kind of hidden gimmick here, but I guarantee you there's not. I'm not trying to sell you anything. This explanation is simple to understand, and it would be easy advice to follow if people had the will to do so. No other approach I've heard of comes close to doing this. From civilization-ending disasters to just completely dystopian futures, there are many ways that we could suffer a horrible fate. Global thermonuclear war, that's already almost happened, and more than once. Or global warming, almost everyone agrees by now that it's happening, even if they don't think humans are causing it. This will lead to nightmarish climate events, floods, extreme hurricanes, tornadoes, extended droughts, famine, mass migration. If it gets warm enough, the Arctic tundra will release many tons of frozen methane gas, which is many times more potent than carbon dioxide, and we could be history. We could also enter another ice age, or a meteorite could strike, like the one we believe killed off the dinosaurs, or a massive volcanic eruption. These are civilization-ending catastrophes, and it absolutely can happen. Scientists think that there have been 5 actual mass extinctions throughout Earth's history. We could also have another major health crisis, much worse than this recent pandemic. This is 100% guaranteed to happen, and probably sooner than later. And I haven't even gotten to our social, political, or economic dilemmas. Right-wing fascism, movements to take down the world order, fury over the inequities of capitalism, or over politics. None of these would end civilization, but any of them could lead us into some kind of terrible Mad Max-like dystopia. And yet, with all these things I've mentioned, I'm going to explain a simple strategy that might be able to get us through any of them. I'm not claiming that anything is guaranteed, but this general approach will give us our best chance. Okay, here's the explanation, which has a few parts to it, but it's all really easy to follow. It's a very hopeful and optimistic belief in our possible future, if we heeded the advice. And this positive attitude is absolutely key in order to understand where I'm going with this. Looking at the state of science, medicine, and technology, we are just on the verge of this incredible point in human history, unlike anything we've ever seen before. With continued progress, many of our most difficult challenges will likely be solved within the next 20 to 50 or 100 years, depending what issue we're talking about. From the common cold to climate disasters. Again, just about anything you can imagine. We've developed several vaccines within less than a year to deal with this pandemic. No one even thought this was close to being possible. And that's just a hint of what I'm talking about. I keep up with general science news quite a bit, and various breakthroughs in technology have led me to think that most of our worst diseases, including cancer and many other illnesses, will be treatable, if not cured, within the next 20 to 30 or maybe 50 years maximum. With science and technology overall, this process is happening faster and faster. We can't even conceive of some of the changes that will happen in the next 50 years. And there's practically no limit to this trajectory. For even the most cataclysmic events, if it's solvable, we will eventually find a solution. It all depends on when something happens. For example, if a giant meteor were going to strike us in 10 years from now, we'd be toast. But in 500 years, we'll probably be able to detect and divert it. Let's look now at our social, political, and economic problems. With these as well, many huge improvements have also happened. It just may not seem that way because the most transformative changes happen over a much longer spans of time. So we need to have a different set of expectations and perspective on these. These can take decades and even centuries. Think how different life was for people if we look back 100 years at a time. We lived through pharaohs, monarchs, kings, serfs, the Middle Ages. It's only been 250 years since we've had the beginnings of democratically elected government. I know this pace of progress is very slow and frustrating, but it's just the nature of these things. When we look at human civilization realistically, with all the dramatic faults in our natures, it would be completely unrealistic to think that it would happen more quickly. Looking at the future, capitalism absolutely does have very deep problems that result from it that we need to overcome, like poverty, extreme inequality, overconsumption, or the prioritization of profits. And this affects politics as well. But remember, first of all, that it has come with all the genuine positives that capitalism has achieved. Life is much better for the average person than it was in the centuries before. And this will all hopefully improve as well, given enough time. If history teaches us anything, it's that society does develop positively. We take steps forward and we take steps backward, but generally, over the longer haul, we do advance. I did have a couple of reasons why I wanted to do this video, and I think it will make more sense to you if I explain that here. First, I wanted to give people a greater sense of hope and optimism in place of this constant, depressing, darker picture that we are most often used to seeing portrayed. I sincerely believe this is true, and I want to pass along that positivity. It's fundamental to our spiritual health. But maybe it's the most important part to understand that there are different possible futures, and we absolutely have an influence on how this will come out, whether it will be a bright future or a tragic one. We have to be more keenly aware of the role that we play in this. The responsibility for how things turn out in the future is on our shoulders. Now, of course, some possible outcomes are just out of our control. Giant meteorites or ice ages. We're done, unless they happen far enough into the future. Another possibility is that we have a man-made catastrophe, like a nuclear war, runaway global warming, or some other disaster that was completely foreseeable and that we could have prevented. That's the run-of-the-mill stupidity that we've had all throughout history. It's built into our natures. We'll hopefully mature over time, but in general, it's just not going to stop. We are who we are. And even still, this is not necessarily a problem. Look at all the progress we've made throughout history in spite of our flaws. Fingers crossed, I think we could still have a reasonable chance that things will work out, if we get lucky and don't blow ourselves up. Along the way, we'll make scientific advancements that will help us to cross those bridges when we come to them. We're getting better and better all the time at solving the problems directly in front of us. But here's why I titled this video, All We Have to Do Is Not Be Stupid. The things I've just mentioned have been more or less unavoidable catastrophes. What are you going to do? But there are avoidable tragedies that maybe we can learn to steer clear of. That's really what this video is about, and it should be easy to understand the basic concept after what I've explained. What I've tried to show you is that our civilization is doing remarkably well, all things considered. But in order for this progress to continue, We have to let it happen. We just need to trust that this positive vision that I've described could happen. And then, let's just chill out, at least somewhat. And I'm speaking directly now to the people who are most angry and frustrated at civilization and want to disrupt everything in order to somehow change the world order. This is our biggest problem right now. And that is what will derail progress and what is guaranteed to lead to some form of dystopia. If you break civilization, it's not going to just fall back together somehow in a better way. My general solution is about as easy as you could possibly hope for. We just need to calm down. Things will hopefully work out if we let them. So, if we're lucky enough to have a job and roofs over our heads, we should just go on with our lives. Enjoy our families and friends, watch football, have barbecues, drink a beer. Just mellow out. I'm not saying we shouldn't be involved in protesting political or social issues. From slavery to women's suffrage to Vietnam, vigorous protests and activism is how great changes in society are made. But we shouldn't expect that incredibly gigantic changes will happen quickly. Progress in society is made through incremental steps. Stop getting all melodramatic and thinking that the world is going to come to an end unless you do something. The things that are wrong with our political and economic systems are very complicated issues to sort out. I think about these things all the time, but I don't get all nuts about it or take up arms. I just make videos trying to explain my reasoning. People will listen or they won't. But I definitely know that we can't be impatient or try to rush or force it. Progress is a step-by-step process that happens over a long period of time. We will need crystal clear plans down the road in order to make smooth transitions from A to B. How will the new system work? We just won't know those answers for a while until we sort through it. Just let the future unfold, and it will. Okay, there you have it. Hopefully that wasn't too painful or boring. If there's interest in this video, I'll be happy to do a follow-up AMA session. What facts do I have behind my reasoning about science and medicine? Why have these conspiracy theories begun to get more out of control right now? How do I see the future of capitalism or politics, etc.? But that's it for now. So thanks for your attention.